Hey guys, Arvin Vora, founder of Vora Method here, and I want to talk to you about what it takes to build a true responsive curriculum. And since Chelsea and I and probably a few others are going to be working on a pretty significant curriculum right now, I want to introduce this real time. I'll give you a series of videos. Every curriculum, every responsive curriculum starts with this. We start with some kind of a problem, some kind of a gap, something that isn't working. And what we've discovered in this case is that, generally speaking, a very large percent of high school students simply cannot see agendas. They don't see propaganda as propaganda. In fact, they see everything written as being just information. When they read the Sir Walter Elliott passage, for example, and you ask what the tone is, they say it's informative. If you ask a question like this, I mean, this is from the Many Some Few Most worksheet. Congressman Fred says many pit bulls have eaten human babies in the city during the last year. What do you think his goal is? I mean, any adult will tell you his goal is to ban pit bulls or to restrict them or in some way. I mean, that's obvious. But many high school students, when they see this, what they'll say is, he is trying to inform you about this event. In other words, they see all nonfiction and also all fiction as basically purely informational. They have been either trained or whatever to simply not see the agendas. And so we're going to build a curriculum, and I'll show you as we go through it, that addresses that builds the skill of being able to understand the motivation of an author. Now, this curriculum is going to be incredibly difficult for me to build. It's going to play to all of my weaknesses. And you know why that is? It's because I like this stuff. I find it fascinating. Persuasion, propaganda, subtle persuasion. It's so exciting to me. And because I'm excited, I want to share this in a very informationally dense way. I want to excite and inspire people about this idea. And if I do that, it will work for the people who already have a high level of interest in it. I mean, that's what college professors do, right? They cater to people. If you're taking an advanced propaganda class in college, it means you have some passing interest in propaganda. But in this case, we don't necessarily have that luxury. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my wish list down, right? I'm going to put the things that I want them to be able to see and understand and use. I want them to understand the ideas that winners write the history books and make sure that people are gullible enough to believe them. I want them to be able to pick up on the most subtle propaganda in their history books and in their biology books. And if I make that curriculum, and I've, in the past, that's exactly what I would have done, it's going to be a massive flop. Because the reason that they don't like or they can't see this is because there's all these underlying things that are missing. And it would be kind of like using a calculus analogy to help explain addition. It would be the reverse order. The explanation would be too much harder than the thing that they can't see. If they can't see simple agendas, as much as I want to talk about the exciting and complex and nuanced agendas and propagandas, methods of manipulation, presuppositions, all that, as much as I would like to make this a deep lesson in con artistry, it will not work. So here's where I start. I start with my wish list. Here's a Facebook meme that I grabbed because I thought it was relevant. There's a couple of videos that I think might kind of set the mood nicely. These are Matrix stuff. And I've just found some articles on it. There's something from The Atlantic that talks about bias in history books. And I've already put the note that it's way too hard, because if they could understand this article, they would be getting an 800 on it. I want them to be able to, but that's what will build up to either at the end of this curriculum or at the end of like 12 curriculums down. There'll be like basic agendas, advanced, ultra advanced, super advanced, and then we'll have this thing in there. So I've picked things that are biased and would be where the bias is subtle. Here's something I picked from Mein Kampf. Everyone agrees that, Mein Kampf is so obviously, so like everyone knows that Hitler doesn't like the Jews, that he wants to, everyone knows about that, right? So I want people to see what not particularly subtle, but slightly more subtle persuasion than what they're used to in school. What they might see in school is global warming is really bad. These are the 3 reasons that it's bad. First, it's bad because it hurts. No. That's what they're used to. I want them to see this. And if we put this in there just like this at the beginning or as an opening or something, total disaster. But this is my wish list, and it's good to have a wish list because that's the goal. If you look at what I would say is the gold standard of our curriculum, the new grammar curriculum, it has the same goal as our earlier wish list curriculum. If you look at Foundations of Grammar, the hard questions on there are also basically the same hard questions in the new grammar curriculum. The difference is the skills are actually systematically built up enough that students can not just do it by stumbling through it and kind of finding their way in the dark, but actually understand the curriculum. Here's the thing from Budget Politics. What we've discovered is while people can answer all the questions on there, most people don't understand the idea that the author here, in this case Thomas Sowell, is basically saying we need to cut budgets, cut taxes, and don't fall for the tricks that local governments or national governments use. I've put in something from a book called The 10,000 Year Explosion. It's generally a favorite among modern day white supremacists. And it reads like a science book. And I want them to see that this propaganda looks a lot like their science books, and that maybe what's going on in their science books, there's probably a little bit of propaganda in there too, certainly in their history books. And I want them to get the idea that if you want to persuade somebody, you don't make it seem like you're stating an opinion, you make it seem like a very authoritative and relatable set of scientific facts. I have a couple notes here that I want to show that you can use analogies in science books that will change how people look at other things. If you're talking about evolution, for example, you can talk about how evolution leads to greater diversity, which it does. And you can also talk about evolution saying that if you're the strong survive and the weak perish, which is also true. But each of those analogies obviously creates a very different social and political perspective. If you say, like, look at all this diversity of traits, it says something very different from the fastest cheetah wins and the second fastest cheetah dies. I mean, that's obviously going to be really different. I want them to be able to see that. So there's the wish list. And that's what's going to happen in worksheet number 70. So the first thing we're going to start doing is we're going to start to sketch out more fundamental questions while also explaining and building these core skills. We're going to start to sketch out this, we're going to want to sketch out this idea, and that each goal needs to be a modest goal that builds up to create an exceptional goal. By the end of the curriculum, they're going to be able to do all these things. But we need to start out with smaller pieces. And what are those pieces going to be? I'm actually not 100% sure yet. I know that part of the initial things I'm going to have to figure out where somebody's level is. So if they can maybe answer a question like this easily, then maybe they'll start somewhere in the middle. And if they say that, oh, he's saying this because he wants to inform you of a fact, well, then we know where to start with that. This idea that the pen is mightier than the sword, that writing can be used as persuasion, that all writing, I mean, obviously if you're a kid, most of the writing you do is just because the only reason you do it is because it's either assigned or if you want to get a high grade or you don't want your mom to yell at you or whatever. So the point is we want to start to show this tool. It's going to go through many iterations, hundreds of iterations, many discussions, brainstorming, questions, tests, all that kind of stuff. And while we're going to have that wish list, we're not going to use wishful thinking to actually make the curriculum. We're going to use that as the goal, the achievable, and a goal that we will achieve, but that's going to be the goal, not, of course, the starting point.